So we are now recording. Welcome to this town hall with our third district supervisor, John Haschak. And this is being sponsored by WELL, which is the short version of Willits Economic Localization. And our organization's been around for, I think, about 15 years now. And we work to try to make our county, well, especially the Willits area, 95490, as self-reliant as possible to address issues like not mining our water sources, make sure we have enough water, conserve energy, have local food as much as we can, and support our local food providers, emergency preparedness. So it's a lot of the same issues that we deal with countywide, but we kind of focus in on Willits. And if you're not yet a member, I encourage you to consider joining. Well, that's what keeps our little organization going. We're mostly volunteer. And I will try to sort of be a moderator in that I will just keep track of who has indicated they want to ask questions, because as you know, on Zoom, only one person can talk at a time. So the way we're going to do this, as this is, I think, our fourth town hall with John Haschak, he starts out with maybe about 10 minutes, sort of what has been going on at the county, what he knows about that's coming up that may be of interest to his constituents. And then we open it up and people can ask questions and they can give him feedback about what they would like him and the county to be doing. So I think with that introduction, we will let John take it away.
All right. Well, thanks, Madge, and everyone from Well who helped put this together. It's really it takes a lot of logistics, and I really appreciate it. So anyway, I did send out a Facebook post of a picture of me in front of the Grange in the good old days when we used to have these face to face, and it's a different time now where maybe, unfortunately, these Zoom meetings are becoming the norm, and that's how we're having to interact more or less. So, yeah. Well, anyway, thanks everyone for being here. It's a beautiful Sunday afternoon in Mendocino County, and we're expecting some more rain tomorrow. So it's hopefully fall is in the air, and fire season will start to fade out. So, the big news is the referendum and the supervisors rescinding the Cannabis Ordinance, the new one. And so, that was really, I totally appreciate the work that everyone did. A lot of it from the third district, because supposedly 75% of the cannabis in the county is grown in the third district. But I think that there were people all over the county who were collecting signatures and didn't want this for their vision of how we move forward in the county. So they wanted to keep it small, beautiful, all of those things. People who are concerned about the community, about the environment, about our way of life and all. So anyway, great job on getting all those signatures for the referendum people. And I finally was in the majority with the supervisor's vote to rescind it. So that felt good too. We have the drought. We have lots of concern about water. We've been shipping water over to the coast for the last week or so. And we just got word Friday afternoon that the state is going to reimburse us up to $2 million for that trucking. But, the trucking isn't the long-term solution. We really need to figure out something else to, the coast needs to start getting storage capacity and all those things, because trucking is not feasible in this day of climate change and everything. So we'll see what happens with that. COVID, we're dealing with, the surge in COVID, and trying to look at what we can do as a county. And with the county employees, there's 1,200, there's out of the, or 1,100 employees, out of 1,100, 300 aren't vaccinated. And so how do we incentivize them to get vaccinated, because it's a concern for everyone. And Dr. Corin, our public health officer, has been really trying to figure out what to do about the outbreaks that are happening in restaurants, and trying to have them post what their criteria are. If they're requiring all their people to get vaccinated, and people who eat there get vaccinated, they get a green standard or poster to go up. If it's just requiring their own workers but not the public, then they get a yellow. And then if they're not even requiring their own workers to be vaccinated or tested, then they're getting I think a red. So that's to let people know. Broadband, the governor signed with the budget, there's $6 billion to go to broadband. And we're hoping that the plan is that Mendocino County will get a chunk of that, and we'll be able to start really implementing broadband throughout the county, because we're not very well served right now. The PG&E money, the 22.6 million, we've been trying to distribute it to those communities affected, but also to make our county more resilient and look at the health and safety of everyone in the county. So with that, the Little Lake Fire Department, Brook Trails both got these side-by-side ATVs, which cost $60,000 each. Long Valley Fire Department in Laytonville got a $200,000, I think, for their ambulance. And each fire department is going to get $20,000 for just medical supplies. And then lastly, I'll say that the governor just signed the SB 231, which is Senator McGuire and Assemblymember Wood working with the Coyote tribe, the Sherwood Valley tribe, and the Round Valley tribe to transfer ownership of Blues Beach, which is over in Westport area, transfer that from Caltrans back to the Indian tribes. And so that got signed off by the governor yesterday, I think. And hopefully, it'll be a good, very better for the environment and the communities with that. So we'll see how they do. And I think that they'll do a much better job than Caltrans has been doing with it. So anyway, with that, we'll open it up for questions or ideas, comments, but let's keep them respectful, of course, and to the point, so that you can always call me afterwards if you have something that's very detailed or you want to talk through an issue. My number is 707-972-4214, or haschakj@mendocinocounty.org. So with that, I'll give it back to Madge. And
I wanted to have you add if there's anything going on regarding fixing some of the holes in the older cannabis ordinance. Is that something that the board is going to move ahead with quickly? And what things are they being considered?
Yeah, we're looking at that right now. I've had a couple meetings with Supervisor Jurdy, who's the chair this year, and then proponents of the referendum. And so what we're looking at is there's certain of the issues like preservation of ag soils, we can all agree on. A hydrologic study for well digging. So if you're drilling a well for your cannabis, then the neighbors should know what is happening with their wells too, and that should be taken into consideration. And also the water hauling issue. So, and then if there's a land use process, we're looking at that too. So we're hoping to bring it back on October 5th to the board to get direction from the full board to try to incorporate those things, or at least form a citizens group who can kind of work on them, bring them back quickly, the easy ones can be brought back quickly without much environmental review. Maybe the land use would require a more extensive environmental review, and that will take longer. But the idea is to get those in place as soon as possible.
Okay, so I'm opening this up. If you want to say something, you can raise your hand if you're visible, or you can speak out if you. Oh, I see Eileen has her hand raised. Okay, Eileen, go ahead.
Hi, Eileen, you're muted.
I know
We don't
that.
hear you. Okay, that's good.
I said, hi, thanks for having these. They're great. I was thinking, I'm interested in land use. So will we then have to go through an EIR process? That's my question.
Yeah, I'm not sure, and that's part of the environmental review. The staff would have to determine if an EIR is needed for that or what level of environmental review. But certainly we'd want to know about things like water and, the effects on the environment if we're going to be going that path. And I think that's what the referendum was about in large part.
Did you have some follow-up, Eileen?
No, I don't. I was ready to take my hand down. Thank you for that. And yes, it's all about the environment, water and land and that 10% rule. And oh my God. So thanks for being on it. And thank you for being the lone voice that got us to this point.
Yeah, it wasn't fun, but it was the right thing to do. And so, I'm not looking for fun in this job, I guess. Right.
Another update I think that people might want to hear, if you have anything new on the Jackson State Demonstration Forest. Is there any news about that?
We talked about it a couple weeks ago at the board level, and they were supposed to bring back a present. I think Supervisors Jurdy and Williams were supposed to bring back a presentation on Jackson State Forest and what was happening there. And it's not on the agenda for Monday or Tuesday. We have 2 days of board meetings this week. And so I'm not sure what's happening with it. So I could check and see where they are, or you could call them too, because they were supposed to bring it back.
Okay. All right. So how about some other questions or comments from people who are here?
I have to leave.
Oh, before
Sorry.
you leave, do you have something you wanted to
No,
bring?
nothing offhand. Thank you, but thank
Okay.
you for doing this.
Well, there will be a
Hey, thanks.
video available later.
The video, yeah, I'll check the video afterwards. Thank you. Goodbye, everyone.
Well,
Thanks.
Gary, do you want to give a quick pitch for the Art Center?
Well, here I am. And yeah, we need volunteers like everybody does. We're hoping for volunteers. So
All right.
yeah, we'll keep you posted. We'll have press releases out about the place, and things are coming along well here.
All right.
Thank you very much again, and I'll look forward to seeing you all later.
Okay, thanks,
Okay.
Gary.
Thanks
Sure,
for being
bye.
here. Steve, did you have a question, or was that just
I was just waving goodbye to
Oh.
Gary.
Okay. I want to add another issue on the plate here, and that is talking about water and the city of Willits. We look pretty good as far as our water supply. The Elias well that was approved like 3 years ago and is already now in existence is not online yet because there's been some problem with the parts at the treatment for that. So right now we're completely relying on our reservoirs, but they're in a pretty good shape as long as we get rain in the normal course of things. Meanwhile, the city has been looking for about a year at developing a second groundwater well, which is called the Long 20 well, and it's on the same pipeline as the Elias wells, north of the sewage treatment plant. The proposal for that second well is going through an initial study, which is basically an environmental review document. That is available to the public now. There's a copy at the library. you could probably contact Andrea Trincato at the city if you want to find out where else you can see that document. And that'll be scheduled for the city council to look at and potentially approve the second well probably in November. Then it might not actually happen in the winter, but it might. Anyway, the idea of that is that if we didn't have the reservoir water, if we were completely out, or the main that carries the water from the reservoirs into the town were to, rupture in an earthquake or something, the Elias well by itself would not supply our residential needs here in the city. And the idea is to have 2 backup wells, and then, it gives us an extra security for our water supply. So some people find that that may not suit everybody. That having groundwater supplement the reservoir water has a certain controversial aspect to it. And the other part of the controversy is that we also are using the park well water, which is not potable water. It's not used for residential at all, but that's being trucked to agricultural and construction uses. So there will be, I think that is going to be on a discussion about that is going to be on the city council agenda next Wednesday. And then this Elias, or the Long 20 well, will be in November. So anyway, we welcome people to find out about those things and comment in our public comments.
John
Yes.
Alameda.
John, yes, John Alameda. I was looking for there you have your hand up. Go ahead, unmute yourself.
All right, thank you. So 2 items. The 29th, your special meeting, which I guess you canceled the 22nd at the city council. My understanding was supposed to be a meeting with a mixture of county and city together, but the other day talking to John, I guess it's not. So I'm not quite sure what it is. Maybe it's on the agenda now, but when I looked Friday, it wasn't. So I'm not quite sure what the subject matter is for this 29th meeting. And then the other comment that with what you were telling about the wells just now, just brought up a thought. I don't know if you've looked at it, but that Long 20 well is also contaminated with arsenic, just like the Park well is. And the study done by Dr. Mills Matheson years ago, while you can treat arsenic contaminated water, it does not purify it. And according to his study, nothing purifies arsenic contaminated water that they have on technology has right now. So I'm kind of curious. I understand when I read the 191 page document that they're going to try to mix Elias well with Long 20 well, but all that does is contaminate all of the water. So I'm curious for an answer on that too. Thank you.
Okay, I haven't read the report yet. My understanding is from our engineers that the treatment level that they envision for the Long 20 well would bring arsenic to a virtually undetectable level. That doesn't necessarily mean there isn't some kind of trace left, but it more than meets drinking water standards, apparently. But I am not an expert, and I certainly welcome Mills Matheson and anyone else who has done some research to find out whether that's indeed true.
And the other part of that, John, was that I checked with the county people, Josh Metz, who's our water agency guy, and also Lynn McGordy, and no one knew about this. So anyway, I guess it's a city discussion about their water, not involving the county.
Yeah.
All right. I also wanted to add that I had been working on consolidating the animal control, animal control, which is if there's a wild savage dog running loose, then it's there, that's animal, you call animal control, it's in the sheriff's office, and then they'll go pick it up and take it to animal care. Or other wild animal encounters they'll deal with too. And so the sheriff didn't want animal control anymore, and our director of animal care really thought that he could do it better, or a good job at it at least. And so he said that he would take it. So I spent a long time getting the pieces in place to shift animal control to the animal care division. So now it's all housed into one. And then we didn't renew the wildlife services contract with USDA. And what we're trying to do now is do a non-lethal approach to wildlife encounters, the skunks under your house, the raccoons, the foxes, all that. And also, mountain lions, bears. So we're looking at contracting that out to someone. And the good news is that we can use this gas tax money, which would pay for about half of that service, which the fear was that we could only use the gas tax for wildlife services, but that turned out not to be true. And we can use it for this other type of service that we're going to probably do a request for proposals. We're creating that. We're going to put it out, see who's interested in doing that kind of work in Mendocino County. And then we'll have it all pretty much under animal care. So one person, it's like a one-stop shopping. If you have any kind of encounter with an animal and you need it dealt with, they're going to have people there who are more experienced and able to hopefully talk people through the situation, tell them what they need to do. And if not, then we can send out this exclusionary worker, and he can walk people through the process too. And if they need him to do special work, he or she, then that would be probably on their own dime. Not the county, but the county would provide the consulting service and lots of information, and updated website, all that.
And it'll be less use of lethal alternatives, as my understanding. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. So a lot of
Okay.
it, the exclusionary service would be, if there's a skunk they have under your house, then they have one way in, one way, or, one-way doors that the skunk comes out and then they can't get back in. Or they also have, mountain lion feces, and they can throw that in there and then animals will leave. So
Okay.
some of those kind of tricks anyway.
Great. Okay, who else has some questions or comments? Well, you showed up, so that means you must care about something going on at the county. So please, this is your opportunity. John, you have another one. Go ahead.
Yeah. So John's telling me that you guys aren't having a meeting combined city county. So what is the 29th, the special meeting that the agenda says? What is, I can't find it on the internet, what the subject is.
Okay, I don't have the agenda in front of me right now, but basically they're calling it a special meeting because our regularly scheduled meetings are the second and fourth Wednesdays. And that would have been the 22nd, but the 22nd happened to be, I think, a League of Cities thing that several of our board council members were going to be at. I can't remember now what the conflict was. So it's basically the second meeting of September, but they call it a special meeting because it's not our normal scheduled time. It is going to be treated just like a regular meeting. There'll be public comment, there'll be agenda items. I know there's a land use item that has to do with the Bemcor subdivision off of Bechtel Road, and there's a discussion about the use of the park well, and there's a discussion about a request from the Solid Waste Management Authority to allocate some relatively small amount of money to help them get their feet back under financially, because there was a huge surge in hazardous household waste that depleted the that agency's funding. Those are the ones that come to mind right now. And I think, yeah, I think that's, I can send you the agenda, John, if you'd like. Should have been out on Friday. Okay, Eileen.
Yeah, since nobody's asking questions, I'll just keep stepping up. There was a wonderful resolution that you county supervisors passed. Thank you very much for climate, putting solar on municipal buildings and having lots more fast charging stations, and the MTA having those buses electric. And the Board of Supervisors set aside $2 million. Now, we've been wondering what's happening with that money. Someone mentioned that that really wouldn't get allocated until you do your budget allocations in March through May or something. And is anybody starting any grant applications? Because it's certainly, that $2 million isn't going to pay for all of that. And can you shed any light on action, I guess? Because we need action.
Yeah, I'm not sure what's happening with that, Eileen. And I can check into it. I thought it was going to be when we came up with the budget revisions at the end of the first quarter. So I'm surprised that they'd be saying that we're waiting until the end of the fiscal year. But I can certainly check into that. I know.
It was actually Marie Jones, Mendocino County Climate Action Advisory Committee, that said that's how budgets get worked on. So I'm not saying that anyone knowledgeable, we don't really have anybody knowledgeable letting us know about that. And that's why I'm posing the question.
Okay, I'll check on that and get back to you. Okay. I'd just like to bring, if no one's going to ask a question, I'll bring up a couple issues. One is housing. You know, the grand jury did a report on our housing crisis in the county and what to do about it. And we're looking at several things, but what I'm looking at is working with this professor of economic development from Davis, who's been working with Fort Bragg and their economic development program there. And this Dr. Keith Taylor has a lot of ideas about, you know, what housing can look like, how we can be innovative with housing. I think that the one possibility is the Willits Unified School District has that chunk of land that got rezoned, and it's between Blosser Lane and Bechtel Grove, that area over kind of south of Franklin Street. And it's something like 5 or 6 acres. And like, what can we do? Because housing is an issue for everyone. The county's having problems hiring people because of lack of housing. The city of Willits, the school district is. So maybe we can do something where we can do some workforce housing, with the collaboration of the city, the school district, and the county. You know, we split it up into 3 parts or whatever. And this Dr. Taylor was saying that if we started working with Fort Bragg, and then Ukiah's got some things going on, maybe we could do something that cuts down the administrative cost and everything. And it could provide a better approach for providing housing for city workers, school district workers, and county. So that's one thing. And then there's always a question about the old Howard Hospital. You know, I'd presented putting a psychiatric hospital facility there, a PUF unit, because the county was looking for a location for it, but it wasn't well received in the city of Willits. And at the last minute, the Howard Foundation got an offer on it from a company that was supposed to renovate old hospitals. And it was kind of like at the 11th hour, they came in and made this offer, and the Old Howard Foundation went with that offer. And the county then decided to look otherwhere, you know, down at Whitmore Lane, down in south end of Ukiah. And so that was the end of the PUF unit going into the Old Howard Hospital. And I just talked with Arnie Mello the other day, and he said that that escrow fell through with that company. And so now they're back to kind of square one, and they're looking at, you know, demolishing the building. And what goes on after that, who knows? But, you know, I just wanted to give people an update on, you know, I think that that could be a place for certain types of housing. I'd like to see, you know, we have senior housing that's really needed. So we'll see what happens.
Yeah, it seems like it would be a shame to demolish that building. On the other hand, I know that for a PUF unit, it would need a lot of work, and that might not even be that cost effective. But anyway, there's a lot
That's
of
another,
issues.
yeah.
Yeah.
But there's other types of, you know, facilities that could be built that wouldn't have that requirement that a PUF would.
Right.
But anyway, just want to let people know.
So I had not heard that the escrow had fallen through, but that's good information to know.
Yeah, when I talked to Arnie at the opening of the fire station 54 the
Yeah.
other week, that's what he told me.
Okay.
So
Okay, Eileen, you're up again.
Yeah, you know, about 6, 7, 8 years ago, we were trying to work on a senior housing complex here in Ukiah, where you have independent seniors. It's not an assisted living thing, but of course, you know, you kind of look out for each other. And wouldn't that be a nice thing to have there, where you kind of maybe even like they do with condos, you buy your unit, but not the outside. You contribute to the outside of it or something like that. But boy, we need something like that. There are a lot of us that are capable, but we can't have our big houses anymore. So I affirm what you were saying in that direction.
So anybody else have a question or comment they want to make for John?
if there's no questions, we're going to go out and enjoy the beautiful weather. So
Yeah. We did have that one glorious day of rain, and looking forward to more of that. Beth, did you?
Okay, my question is, I mean, I'm just trying to find ways to get anybody and everybody to add solar to their buildings. And especially when we have new buildings coming in, it's hard to see that the new, relatively new college, and then especially the new firehouse, have no solar. But for the normal developer, whatever, if there was a way we could encourage them that if they pay less on some kind of fee or something, that they would, you know, if they put in solar, some way to make it so that we start having more people consider the fact that actually this would be a good plan. That's something I would like to see.
yeah, that's a great
That's
idea. And you know, giving incentives maybe lowering the fee or something if you put it in solar, or, you know.
Yeah, I'm not sure that's enough of an incentive. It also just occurs to me that the city might also invite Sonoma Clean Power to make a presentation, because we haven't heard from them for quite a while, and they offer an awful lot of incentives themselves, not only for solar, but things like heat pumps and electrification of appliances, and they have actually an awful lot going on. And I used to be on their board for a short time, but I haven't been for a couple of years, and so I'd love to hear from them again. And maybe the county board.
Yeah, and if, yeah,
ahead,
I
Beth.
mean, I think, didn't, I know Costco didn't put it on the building here, but I thought that Ukiah had a requirement that big buildings had to put in solar, and at some point they didn't end up doing it to this building, but they ended up having to agree to put it somewhere, solar. And if we could just have things that, I mean, actually with the Sonoma Clean Power, if we just, when people got a permit, even if it isn't much of a monetary incentive, if they got information at the same time about like heat pumps, which ultimately save them lots of money. And so, I mean, so that they're more encouraged, just monetary information, lots of people to actually look at this and do this and go, in 5 years, 10 years, it'll have paid for itself. Maybe it's a good idea.
Yeah. Eileen was nodding her head through all of that. And I know that that's both the city and the county should do what we can in that regard. I totally agree. And I see that John Almeida has his hand up. So John,
Yeah, suggestion I have is, years ago, working for DOT, if we had a joint interest in what was happening between the county and the permittee, we would give a no fee permit on some items. And if we were to advertise that for solar, to bring the solar up to both the city and the county could do that, a no fee permit, maybe even put out something in the paper that would encourage people to go towards solar by having a no fee permit. That would go a long ways. And then my other question, John, was for you. You told me the other day there's going to be a meeting either the 4th or the 5th. Are you sure that's not the 14th, the water ad hoc committee meeting? I wasn't sure on that.
Right. It's a meeting to look at water extraction, and it's going to be on the 4th. It's not listed publicly, but
I might miss that one, but I like to be in touch with all the water meetings, that's for sure. Anyway, thank you.
is that water task force, John, are their meetings open to the public?
Yeah, a lot of them are, but we're looking at what we can do about water extraction and water being hauled to illegal cannabis grows or from valleys to the hills. We're seeing a lot of that, whether it's, Laytonville, throughout the 3rd district. So what we're looking at is limiting water hauling to, at least prohibiting it between midnight and 5 in the morning, because we're hearing a lot of stories about the water trucks going at 3 in the morning. And it's probably not the best way, not probably a legal activity at that point.
Yeah, one more comment I wanted to make on that. The other day when we talked about having somebody trace an address on these water hauls to make sure whether they were going to a legal area or an illegal area. The other thing is if there's not an address posted, or if they're going on a private road past the end of the public road, you could use a GPS. We did that every supervisor and DOT had a little handheld GPS unit. So that could be reported through GPS coordinates to the sheriff's department too.
Okay, so what I was saying was that, you know, our drought task force is looking at some of these issues of water. We're looking at water hauling at night. We're looking at what can be done about water hauling to illegal grows, and also on the long term, we're looking at maybe we need to do a land use process for water extraction. So it's being done for minerals. If you have minerals underneath your land, I guess you need a land use permit to do that, to extract and sell it somewhere else. And, you know, we're looking at, maybe we need to do that for the water under your land. And do you have the right to suck out all the water that you can to sell it to somewhere else? And so that's a meeting that John Alameda was referencing that we're having on the 4th. We're trying to get stakeholders together to talk about the issue and see what, you know, pros and cons are about it, and where there's a possible, you know, way to move forward.
And this is definitely going to be one of the discussion items on the Willits City Council on this coming Wednesday, the 29th. Is it the 29th? Yeah. Because talking about the park well and the trucks that are going there. And I believe that has been available to licensed truckers, can do it like 24/7, you know, that there isn't a time restriction. I know that the city staff has said they don't really have a way to control where the trucks go with the water, because they don't have a staff person there, you know, taking notes about each truck, but they could certainly restrict the hours that it's available. So that's the kind of discussion that we might have at City Council on this Wednesday. So good to hear their options. Val, you've just joined us. Welcome. You'll have
Hi,
to.
Val, you're muted.
Hi, John. Good to see you.
Hey, Val. Great. Thanks for. Okay,
You're
Eileen,
hanging
you have
in
to
there.
go. So thanks, and I'll try to get that information to you.
Thanks much.
Sure thing.
Okay, Val, did you have a question or comment for? Oops. Yeah.
Yeah, I was just wondering, many of the groups that I'm with are very concerned about climate change. And they're wondering if it's possible to put into the budget things that will promote climate change. And the budget already passed. Was there an opportunity to do any of that? John?
Well, Eileen was on earlier, you know, she just left. And yeah, the group from the coast, and what do they call themselves? The Grassroots Institute or something. And they pushed the resolution that the board adopted. We're going to use $2 million of the PG&E money to promote, you know, solar energy on all new county, or on all county buildings. And there were a couple other parts of it, you know, electrifying the MTA bus system, and then also promoting more electric car chargers in the county. And so
Good.
we have put some money to it, and Eileen was asking where that money is and how long it will take to get in place. So I didn't have that information. I was going to check on.
Oh, good. But there is an effort at least.
Right. Yeah.
Right. Oh, good.
Yeah.
Beth?
I don't know how to put a thumb up or hand up or whatever, but so regarding the electric car chargers, I'm hoping that more of them will work with Asian cars, so have the CHAdeMO for the fast charge as well as, I forget the name of the one that works on American and European cars, because there's two different types of nozzles. I don't know what they are. Charge that, you know, can be on the same thing. For example, at the Safeway in Willits, if you look at the new fast chargers they put in, I think there's 4 new of them, and only one of them has a CHAdeMO, which is the blue round nozzle, which means that only one Asian, and here, I mean, in this part of the country, it's often cheaper to buy a, you know, like a Nissan. And if you want to charge that, you need that type of thing. So it's just, so there's more parity between the two types of chargers. That would be my request, since I own a Nissan.
Yeah. You know what? I'm on MCOG, which is the Mendocino Council of Governments. And they do the transportation issues. And Janet Orth is the expert on the chargers and electric cars. And so she's, I think, well, she's staff for MCOG. And, you know, that's who I think we should be going through to figure out how to move this all forward.
Yeah, and Safeway, being a private owned property, they did not even come to the city for any review of that. And there's been a lot of complaints about the placement and the lack of enforcement of their charging station there. It's a prime location, so everybody who's not charging wants to park there. And they aren't, you know, they aren't enforcing it at all. And so there's, you know, unfortunately, we can't control everybody, or fortunately.
You know, and I'll just say this with Val here is Val Mahowski is are you the president of the League of Women Voters, Val?
Oops,
You're
you are
muted.
Yeah.
Mendocino Women's Political Coalition.
Okay.
And I'm a member of the league and work with them closely on things.
Okay. And so, you know, there's this need to redistrict. And I know Val's been very involved in that. And so the county is going to redistrict according to the 2020 census. And, you know, we formed a commission on it, you know, of one representative from each supervisorial district. And so right now they're looking at, you know, well, I think they're still waiting for the census numbers, but they should be out any day. And oh, the word was that the cities like Ukiah, Willits, and Fort Bragg all grew some, but the rest of the county didn't really grow. And so what that means is they need to, I think the county grew by 3,000 people in the last 10 years. And if they're more in the urban settings, the cities, then we need to shift things around when we redistrict, because to make it fair, to make the population, you know, more or less equitable between the 5 supervisorial districts. So if Willits grew very much, then it could pull our lines in closer to Willits, because right now we're, you know, the line is Branscombe is in the 4th district, which is in Fort Bragg, you know, and then the Muir Mill Road is cut off halfway down, and that's in the 5th district, I think. And then Ridgewood is
Right.
like Black Bart is
That's the
dividing
5th.
line, and that goes into the 5th district, even though those people feel like their community of interest is Willits, right? They're associated with Willits. That's who they hang out with, just like the people in Branscombe feel like they're connected to Laytonville. But because we have to make sure that the populations are more or less equitable, then they had to get cut out. So we'll see what happens, what the commission comes back with. The idea is that they'll come back, they'll have a series of public meetings for the next couple months, like there's maybe 3 more public meetings, and then they'll do a recommendation to the board, and in November, we will decide on the final lines using those recommendations.
Who did you already appoint your 3rd district person on that commission?
Yeah, I did.
Who is it?
You know, I'm forgetting her name right now.
Is it Ree Slocum? Oh,
No.
No, okay.
Let me
Okay.
think about it for a minute.
Okay, and I see John Almeida has his hand up. Go ahead.
Yeah, that brought a thought to me, and I've been thinking about it before. You know, Ridgewood and Mirror Mill, they are part of Willits, and to have them represented by the 5th district, I don't believe that's the right thing. So I really don't understand why we got to stay toward having an even amount of people per district. I think that if you're in Willits and you're a Willits resident or in the hills around Willits, that you should be a part of the 3rd district. And that's, you know, that's the closest representative that will have the same interest because they know the situation that you live in. I can't see that somebody from the South Coast would be picking up on the tail end of the outskirts of what Willits should be representing or what the 3rd district ought to be representing. So I'm more for, yes, you know, Ridgewood and Mirror Mill should be part of the 3rd district.
Right, but they do have state requirements about what percentage they can vary according to the population. And so they can only vary like 5% between one district and another. And so even though you could say Leggett has more in common with Laytonville and Willits than they do with Fort Bragg, you know, they're in Fort Bragg district because they needed more population. But I certainly agree with you, John, about that Mirror Mill Road and Ridgewood, they're part of Willits, right? So
Wouldn't it be better to give the 5th district Hopland instead of I don't know, Hopland in the 1st district?
Hopland is already in the 5th district,
yeah.
Okay, maybe.
and the 1st district wants Hopland.
Okay.
Yeah, this
Is
is
what
it's
I'm
tricky.
hearing.
I don't think that the population of Willits has grown by very much at all. So maybe that'll help, but I don't know. You'll have to look at the census numbers and see. But I do want to be notified when those committees are looking at those maps and trying to come up with something that makes
Right,
sense.
and people like John can testify to the group and say, I'm a community of interest and this is how I'd like to see my community look. And they're very interested in having public input. I don't think they've gotten very much yet.
It's the sort of thing that most people don't notice that's even going on, but those things matter.
Right. Well, I'm in the 5th district and it is horrendous, you know. It starts in Mendocino and goes down to the Sonoma County line, goes across to Highway 101, goes up Highway 101, picks up Hopland, goes all the way into southern Ukiah to Oak Mill, goes around the mountains, ends up at the high school, then goes over to Highway 101 and goes up Highway 101 to possibly Walker Road. It used to go to Walker Road. I'm not sure if it does now.
Wow.
So it's a district where people don't know who they're, because I political trainings and I ask people, who's your supervisor? And they're not sure, you know.
Okay.
And it's important to know who
All right.
Well, it's important to have a connection with that supervisor too, right? With all of our elected officials, so.
And I wanted to commend John Haschak for being so accessible and responsive to his constituents and to the whole county, really. But we haven't always had someone who answers their phone calls and who has these public forums. And you've been really stellar in that regard. So.
Well, I've had
Yes.
good help too, you know, and it really
Yes,
takes
but-
people wanting to have these forums to make them happen, you know?
Yeah.
I show up, you know, but a lot of people are doing the work behind the scenes.
All right.
Well, we
Well,
really
so-
appreciate it. Thank you.
Yes. Yes, thank you.
And I want to thank both John and Madge for doing these things. I appreciate the time you put in. I know I have a lot of input on some of these meetings, but it's important, and I want to give you an attaboy, both of you.
All right, thanks, John. And I just wanted to say one more thing is that on the Measure B committee, we had Jed Diamond as our representative for the last 3+ years. And Jed finally decided with the busyness of his schedule that he needed to step away after real stellar representation on the Measure B Oversight Committee. And so he resigned at the last meeting, and I'm appointing Sherry Ebyam as the new 3rd District representative. You know, that's my nomination to the board, and it's usually rubber stamped, approved. So I think
He's
Sherry,
great. Thank you.
Sherry's been great on, you know, calling in from the sidelines and watching out for the dollars and cents. She has a real background in finance, school finance, you know, public works kind of finance. And so I think that she'll be a real great addition to the Measure B Oversight Committee. Because I've been relying on numbers she's been providing and the approach she has of looking at how the numbers should be, how the numbers tell the story.
Yeah, I agree. She's an excellent choice.
Yeah.
Right.
Thank you. Yes.
Okay. I just wanted to say a quick word about a workshop that I'm giving on campaign training. So if you have some people that are interested in becoming more involved politically and they'd like to learn a little bit more how to do that, we're going to start next Saturday in Ukiah, and we'll run 4 weeks. October 2nd, October 9th, October 16th, and October 23rd. And folks can come in and participate and learn to enjoy political events and political training. So
Where is it, Val?
it's on 104 North School Street in Ukiah. It's called the Co-Work Ukiah.
Val, if you wanted to, I don't know if anyone here is going to download the chat, but it is, I put in John Haschak's phone and email and mine and how to join well. If you aren't already a member, I recommend that. But also if you wanted to put down how to contact you, and then you could email people the specifics.
Okay, thank you.
Well, anyway, thanks everyone for being here, and we'll try to do it in a few more months, right?
Yeah.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you all for coming. And we'll probably do another one maybe January.
Okay.
Lull.
Yeah.
And hopefully there'll be lots and lots of rain by then.
Right. And hopefully we can do it in person one of these days. So
Wouldn't that be nice?
Mhm.
Yeah.
and Val's putting in the information about her workshop on financing a campaign.
By the way, I took one of those before I ran for city council the first time. It was very, very helpful. And there are going to be there will be a city council election in 2022.
Right.
And my seat is not up then, but I think Larry Stransky and probably Sabrina Rodriguez will be up. Well, maybe not. Anyway, I know Larry's one of them. And I will not
Well,
be seeking.
the interesting thing is in Ukiah, there'll be 4 seats up in November
Oh,
2022. And in Fort Bragg, there'll be 4 seats up because there have been appointments in those. So people are interested. They should kind of get a little advanced look at how the
Yeah.
whole situation sits.
and it's really, I recommend that you attend at least a few of your local city council meetings and kind of get the lay of the land. And it's interesting work. You have to be a little bit of a jack of all trades because you don't get to know a whole lot about each item, but you have to know quite a bit about roads and sewers and police and all sorts of things that you might never have known that you were interested in, and represent the general public in figuring out how to provide those services to your city.
Right.
So it's an interesting job.
What makes it all run?
Yeah, and John, even more so at the county level, you've got a very large machine to run there, and
Right.
rely. Yeah, it's a big.
Yeah, blending the federal and the state and local interests and monies, just an incredible job.
Well, I thought school
And
districts
thank
were
you for taking
complicated.
that job on.
What was that,
I
John?
thought school districts were complicated until I got to the county, right?
Yeah.
Anyway.
Okay. Well, I think we've had a nice, interesting conversation here, and I know people might want to get out and take a walk while it's still nice evening hours. And I'm going to save the chat just in case anyone has any questions about it. Save chat. There we go.
Right.
So anybody can do that. And thank you for participating. And thanks especially to John for making himself available to everyone.
Anyway,
Right.
thank you all for attending, and yeah, contact me anytime. And thanks,
Okay.
Madge.
Thank
and
you.
Thank
well,
you, everybody.
for putting this on. Okay.
Thank you.
Right.
Bye, everyone.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.